What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We had every quarterback to throw for 500 yards in a single game. Let's check this out.
Today we're going to be taking a look at every
Drew
quarterback
Brees, Patty
in NFL
Mahomes
history to throw for 500 or more yards in a single game. Now, the first time that this was accomplished came all the way back in 1951. As a result of how grainy the game footage was back then,
that's crazy, actually.
Put in players that achieved this feat in the 21st century. But before 2000, I do have to still shout these guys out, give them their flowers. Only 7 quarterbacks ever pulled off a 500-yard passing game. Those players being Norm Van Brocklin in 1951, Y.A. Tittle in 1962, Vince Ferragamo in 1982, Phil Simms in 1985, Dan Marino in 1980, Warren Moon in 1990, and Boomer Esiason in 1996. So let's start off with a quarterback that not many watching this video are going to be familiar with. Elvis Grbac was drafted in the 8th round of the 1993 draft, and heading up to the 2000 season where he had a 500-yard passing game, he had spent a good chunk of his career as a backup. During his first 3 seasons with the 49ers, he only started in 9 games, but after joining the Kansas City Chiefs in 1997, he took over as the team starter. After a solid season in 1999, throwing for 3,389 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions, he had the best year of his career.
It's not the best touchdown interception ratio, but it is what it is.
500-yard passing game on November 5th when the Chiefs took on the Raiders. He finished that game with 504 yards and 2 touchdowns while completing over 73% of his pass line to 31. Even though his best game of the season ended in an L, this was still a great year for Grbac. He finished that year throwing for 4,169 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions, earning himself a spot in the Pro Bowl. However, similar to his game against the Raiders, his individual success as a passer still didn't lead to much team success, with the Chiefs having a losing 7-8 record with Grbac as the starter. All that being said, he still went down as the first quarterback to throw for 500 yards or more in the 21st century. Next up is a quarterback that you're going to hear me talk about more than once on this list, Drew Brees. Brees was one of the most talented passers the game has ever seen.
I look-y wish Drew Brees was still playing, you know, like him and Tom Brady. Like, the only quarterbacks that are left from, you know what I'm saying, this time where with Drew and Tom Brady is Aaron Rodgers and I believe Matthew Stafford and Joe Flacco, bro. You know what I'm saying? But as starters, we're talking about Stafford and A-Rod. Like, it is crazy, bro. And they're not even going to be around for much longer. For like, what, 2 to 3 more years? They're going to probably be, you know what I'm saying, retired and shit. Like, it's crazy.
While he was
I feel honored to watch all these guys play, you know what I'm saying, growing up and shit.
An era with, like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, Brees' talents as a passer are definitely not in question. It took over 6 years for another quarterback to hit 500 yards in a single game, but Brees did so on November 19th, 2006, when the Saints took on the Bengals. While he had a historic day in terms of passing yards, this was still a less than stellar performance when taking a look at his touchdown to turnover ratio. Brees finished that game with 510 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 71.2%.
That's actually insane, though, bro.
3 interceptions.
He still had over 70 completion percentage, was still throwing 3 picks. So how many incompletions did he have? So we know it's 3 so far with the 3 interceptions. So
his 510 yards, the Saints still took a beating by 15 points. This impressive showing through the air was far from a one-time thing from Brees.
I mean, 15 points is not a blowout.
4,418 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, leading the league in passing yards. Along with this, he led New Orleans to a very respectable 10-6 record. This earned himself a spot in the Pro Bowl and on the All-Pro first team, but unfortunately, his 2006 campaign ended in a 39-14 loss to the Chicago Bears in the NFC Championship game. 3 years later, Ben Roethlisberger was the next quarterback
who likes taking females to the damn bathroom,
was yet another elite talent from the golden era of quarterbacks. Similar to Brees, he's probably not
Chris Brown and
that comes to mind when thinking of this era, but he's still one of the best passers that the game has ever seen. Roethlisberger,
and he was also so hard to fucking tackle
on this list, and while this fact may shock some, he holds holds the title for most 500-plus yard games in NFL history. The first time he achieved this came
Wait, for
on
real?
December 20th,
Like, when you would think somebody like Tom Brady would have that type of record, but Big Ben?
When the Steelers took on the Packers. This was a highly anticipated game with an elite matchup at the quarterback position.
I didn't even know that.
Roethlisberger and Aaron Rodgers. Both quarterbacks.
Shit, even A-Rod you would think would have, would have that record too.
The occasion this game, it was an absolute shootout. Big Ben had a near perfect game through the air, throwing for 503 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 63%. The Steelers needed every yard they got out of Big Ben to in this contest, as even with his elite performance, they only came out with a narrow 1-point win, 37-36. This was the strongest game from what was a very solid 2009 season from Big Ben. He finished the year with 4,328 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, while leading the Steelers to a 9-6 record as the starter. Despite this solid record, the Steelers just barely missed out on the postseason, though. Next up, we got a player that almost everyone barely missed out on the postseason.
Damn, so they missed out on the postseason at 9-6. What other teams? Wait, what?
Though. Next up, we got a player that
what other teams had better records?
You cannot have a list about
Thomas Edison Brady
or accolades and not have Tom Brady make at least one appearance. Just 2 seasons after Big Ben threw for over 500 yards against the Packers, Brady did it against the Dolphins. This game took place on September 12th, 2011. This was the opening week, and he got his season started off on the right foot. While New England mainly ran a very balanced style of offense, this was far from the case in this matchup, with Brady throwing 48 times for 517 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception with a completion percentage of 66.7%.
That's not bad. That's pretty good.
Dominating in this one, and the Pats came out with an easy 38-24 win. He made sure that almost all of his pass catchers were eating in this one, with 4 out of his targets finishing the game with over 85 yards and 3 of them catching a touchdown. This elite game through the air was a sign of things to come for Brady that year, finishing with 5,235 yards, 39 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, setting what was a career high in passing yards until the 2021 season. This earned him a spot in the Pro Bowl, and along with this, the Patriots were clicking on all cylinders, ending the regular season with a 13-3 record. Brady was able to lead the Pats all the way to the Super Bowl before they were defeated by the Giants by a final score of 21-17. Tom Brady was not the only quarterback to throw for 500 yards in a game during that 2011 to 2012 season. While Brady accomplished this feat in the opening week, Matt Stafford the final week of the regular season.
Stafford is still so underrated, bro.
The Packers on January
he's been around for so long and is still getting disrespected.
And Stafford got his new year started off right, passing for 520 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a completion percentage of 61%. Now, it's very rare that a quarterback goes for 500 yards, let alone throws 5 touchdowns as well. However, this was an elite Green Bay team that finished the regular season with a 15-1 record. Despite Stafford giving it all he had, it was still not enough for the Lions to take down the Packers, even with Green Bay missing Aaron Rodgers.
What the hell?
An extremely close game.
Bro, A-Rod's a troll.
45-41.
45-41, holy.
Loss to finish out the regular season, this was still a very successful year for both Stafford and the Lions. Individually, he finished the year with 5,038 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions, leading the league with 663 passing attempts. To make this season even more impressive, he did this all while coming off an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder.
Bro almost got murked.
This earned himself the Comeback Player of the Year award, and to put the cherry on top, he also led the Lions to a 10-6 record and earned them their first playoff berth in 12 years. Unfortunately, their time in the postseason was cut short, suffering a 45-28 loss by Drew Brees and the Saints in the wild card round. Following season, Eli Manning was one of the
Elias Manning
for 500 yards or more in a single game. He was coming off a season in which he won the 2nd Super Bowl of his career, both against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, and was poised to make yet another deep run in the playoffs. Manning accomplished this 500-yard feat on September 16th, 2012.
Wait, what? What was that tweet?
Manning accomplished this
Eli Manning with another 500-yard game. He sucks though. This must be a Patriot fan. Gotta be a Patriot fan, bro. Like,
September 16th, 2012, when the Giants took on the Bucks. Despite surpassing the 500-yard mark, this was a shaky performance from him. He threw for 510 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions with a completion percentage of 60.8%. The main beneficiaries of Manning's 510-yard performance were Hakeem Nicks and Victor
Bro,
Cruz.
what you know about, bro, this was a deadly-ass duo, bro. Hakeem Nicks was different in his prime. So was Victor Cruz.
Combining for
21
receptions, 378 yards, and
trying to know about this duo.
Even with the turnovers, the Giants,
especially in Madden, they went crazy.
41-34 win. The 2012 season ended up being a very solid one for Manning, finishing the year with 3,948 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions, earning himself a spot in the Pro Bowl. While the Giants finished the regular season with
this is how you can tell that there was not a lot of good quarterbacks throwing for that many yards back then, bro, because this nigga had 26 touchdowns to 15 interceptions, bro. Like, you're not making the Pro Bowl with these type of numbers, bro. I'm just saying.
A spot in the Pro Bowl.
I'm just saying,
the
bro.
Giants finished the regular season with an identical 9-7 record that they had the previous year when they won the Super Bowl. They missed out on the playoffs in 2012. The next player joining Manning as the only other quarterback to throw for more than
Matt Schaub threw for 500 yards, bro. Matt Schaub was absolute dog shit. Who let this nigga throw 500 yards on the defense, bro?
100 yards in the 2012 season.
Come on now.
Might come as a shock to some people. While his career has mostly been lost to history with the sheer amount of elite quarterbacks that he shared an era with or came right after him, Matt Schaub was an extremely talented passer. Him and Andre Johnson were a feared duo during their time in the league together.
Andre Johnson carried him.
Game against the Jaguars on November 18th, 2012.
Typical Jaguars.
527 yards. 5 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Of course, he threw 2 picks.
Completion percentage.
He couldn't throw for over 500 yards without throwing a pick, bro. Let's keep it a buck.
2%. The duo of Schaub and Johnson were on another level during this game, with Johnson pulling in 14 receptions for 273 yards and a touchdown.
Dog,
elite day through the air led the Texans to a
just went to the Hall of Fame too.
And this ended up being a great year for both Schaub and Houston, with him throwing for 4,008 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions on the season, earning himself a spot in the Pro Bowl.
Like, how is he still making the Pro Bowl, bro? This is how you can tell wasn't that many good quarterbacks back then. Like, come on.
AFC South
22 tutties to 12 picks.
Didn't take long for another quarterback to crack 500 yards in a game, with Tony Romo being the only player to do so in the next season, 2013. Romo had arguably one of the best careers from any undrafted quarterback in NFL history, not only working his way up to being the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback, but also becoming a 4-time Pro Bowler. One of the best games of his career came on October 6, 2013, when the Cowboys took on the Broncos. This was a matchup.
I think I remember this game.
Incredible talent at the
was this when Peyton Manning faked out the Dallas defense for a rushing touchdown?
Broncos. The two did not disappoint, and this game was a complete shootout, with both teams combining for 99 points. Romo finished the game with 506 yards, 5 touchdowns, and only 1 interception, with a completion percentage of 69.4%. Romo made the most of his receiving core, with Terrence Williams, Dez Bryant, and Jason Witten all finishing with at least 120 yards.
Dez and Jason Witten, yo. Oh my gosh. Those were the good old days.
Still defeated by a final score of 51-48.
What a game.
Even at the age of 33, Romo proved that he was still one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the league with this game against the Broncos, but his individual success did not lead to a postseason run, with the Cowboys finishing the year with an 8-7 record with Romo as the starter. Making his second appearance on this list, we have Ben Roethlisberger. Despite his first 500-plus yard game coming in 2009, he proved that he was still more than capable of pulling this feat off 5 years later. On October 26, 2014,
against
the Steelers
Andrew Luck,
the Indianapolis Colts, Big Ben had one of the most impressive passing performances of all time. He finished that game with 522 yards, 6 touchdowns,
6
and 0
tutties.
interceptions, with a mind-blowing completion percentage of
81.
6%.
You don't see that every game, bro. I said gay.
Game. There was almost nothing that the Colts could do to keep up. The receiving duo of Antonio Brown and Heath Miller thrived in this game.
Heath Miller was very underrated,
17
bro.
receptions for 245 yards and 3 touchdowns. As a result of this insane performance from Big Ben, the Steelers destroyed the Colts by a final score of 51-34. Roethlisberger had an incredible year as well in 2014, throwing for 4,952 yards, 32 touchdowns, and only 9 interceptions, leading the league in passing yards.
Did he make the Pro Bowl?
Per game. This earned himself a spot in the Pro Bowl.
Yes, sir.
Big Ben also led the Steelers to an 11-5 record, but they were eliminated in the wild card round by the Ravens in a tough.
Yeah, that's what I'm fucking talking about. Let's go.
Loss. Our next man up is Philip Rivers, who was one of the 2 quarterbacks who pulled off the 500-plus yard feat in the 2015 season. He accomplished.
Is Philip Rivers a future Hall of Famer?
On October 18th, 2015.
I would think so.
He finished the contest with 503 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions on an insane 65 pass attempts. Rivers spread the ball throughout.
Fuck, you're throwing the ball 65 times? I mean, he's got Keenan Allen, so.
This game with Keenan Allen, Malcolm Floyd, and Antonio Gates.
And Gates too? Oh yeah.
Yards, while Ladarius Green and Dontrell Inman both had a touchdown each. The Chargers struggled to turn this great day through the air from Rivers into many points at all, though, and they fell to the Packers by a final score of 27-20. Rivers had a strong individual season in 2015 where he threw for 4,792 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, while leading the league in both.
It's not that good of a touchdown-interception ratio, but
with 437 and 661 respectively. But all that didn't lead to much team success, with the Chargers finishing that year with a 4-12 record. Drew Brees had the second 500-plus yard game of his career on November 1st, 2015, when the Saints took on the Giants. This matchup between Brees and Eli Manning was an absolute shootout, with both teams combining for 101 points. This was a historic performance from Brees, where not only did he throw for 505 yards, but he also tied the NFL record for most passing touchdowns in a single game with 7. Even with his interceptions that day, the
7 tutties in one game is crazy.
The scoring pace of the Saints, and they came out on top by a final score of 52-49. Almost every pass catcher on New Orleans that day had a great game, with
Willie
5
Snead
of them scoring at least 1 touchdown, and Ben Watson and Marquise Colston going for a combined 261 yards and 2 touchdowns.
I forgot they had Brandon Cooks too in this game.
Of Brees' career, and something that may never be replicated again. 2015 was a very strong season for Brees individually also, where he threw for 4,870 yards, 32 touchdowns, and just 11 interceptions.
And they finished 7-9.
Contributed to him leading the league in passing yards. Despite this amazing year from their QB, the Saints
still get a Pro Bowl out of it, right?
7-8 record with Brees as the starter, missing the playoffs narrowly. Matt Ryan was one of 2 quarterbacks that surpassed the 500-yard mark in a game.
Bro, Matt Ryan's got to be a future Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though like the most thing he's recognized for is, you know what I'm saying, 28-3, but like he was still an elite quarterback in the NFL.
2016 season. He achieved this on October 2nd, 2016.
And this was his best season of his career too. I believe they went to the Super Bowl
this was the greatest season of Matt Ryan's career, where he and Julio Jones established themselves as arguably the best quarterback receiver duo that the entire league had to offer. They put their connection on full display in this game, with Ryan throwing for 503 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception, with Jones accounting for 300 yards and a touchdown on 12 catches. The duo
oh my gosh, bro. I'm telling you, Prime Julio was different.
Panthers out of the Georgia Dome with a dominant 48-33 win. This game was a sign of things to come as well for Ryan, going on to throw for 4,944 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions on the season, making the Pro Bowl and the All-Pro first team, while also taking home the MVP and Offensive Player of the Year awards. It appeared that this was a season of destiny for Ryan and the Falcons, with them making it all the way to the Super Bowl. However, they were defeated in overtime by the New England Patriots by a final score of 34-28, even after notoriously holding a 28-3.
That shit is still mind-blowing, bro.
The past couple of seasons have been very rough on.
Derek Carr threw for over 500 yards?
Derek Carr.
When was this?
At the
When was
peak of
this?
his career, he was one of the most promising young quarterbacks that the league had to offer. He was capable of winning a game on his own through the air, and he put this on full display when the Raiders took on the Buccaneers on October 30th.
Oh, okay, so this is
Carr went
old.
on to throw for 513 yards, 4
Damn.
touchdowns, and 0 interceptions.
Oh,
This was
shit.
an extremely efficient performance from Carr, and the duo of Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree were the
Coop
main
and
beneficiaries
Crabtree,
of his
man.
big day. The pair combined for 20 receptions, 281 yards, and 1 touchdown. Even with this elite showing through the air from Carr, the Raiders only escaped with a narrow 30-24 win. In the 2016 season, he earned himself a second consecutive trip to the Pro Bowl after throwing for 3,937 yards, 28 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions while leading the Raiders to an incredible 12-3 record as a
Oh, shit.
starter. Unfortunately, their playoff run
didn't
did
he-
not
didn't he
last
get
long,
hurt?
with Oakland falling to the Houston Texans by a final score of 27-14 in the wild card round. Ben Roethlisberger went on to have his third 500-plus yard game in the 2017 season. He was the only player to do so that year. He did this on December 10th, 2017.
I don't
when the
think any
Pittsburgh
quarterback
Steelers
had
took
500
on the
yards passing
Baltimore
last
Ravens.
season.
This was a very talented Ravens defense that featured players such as Terrell Suggs, CJ Mosley, Eric Weddle, Marlon Humphrey, and Matt
Marlo.
Judon. But even they could not slow down Big Ben in this matchup, with
Crazy.
him throwing for 506 yards,
Come
2
on now.
touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. He was the only source of offense for the Steelers that game, with the team only picking up 59 yards on the ground. The duo of Big Ben and Antonio Brown were unstoppable in this game, with Brown going for 11 receptions
Oh my
and
goodness.
213 yards. Even with Roethlisberger's strong showing, Pittsburgh still narrowly escaped with a 1-point win, 39-38. Despite being 35 years old in the 2017 season, this was still a great year from Big Ben, earning himself a spot in the Pro Bowl after throwing for 4,251 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. He led the Steelers to a 12-3 record as a starter. However, their season came to a disappointing end in the divisional round, where they suffered a close 45-42
Oh, I remember this
loss
game.
to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That was back when
The second
Jacksonville was really
500-plus
good.
yard game from
with
Tom
Jalen Ramsey
Brady
on their
in his
team.
career came on the NFL's biggest stage.
Thomas
when the New
Edison
England
Brady
Patriots
again?
took on the Philadelphia Eagles on February 4th, 2018. This was arguably the most impressive passing performance.
Now, this is a great Super Bowl
history.
right here.
He finished the contest
This Philly,
with 505 yards,
Philly special
3
in this
touchdowns,
motherfucker.
and 0 interceptions, setting the record for the most passing yards in a Super Bowl game. Brady made the most of his weapons in this matchup, with Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan, and Rob Gronkowski all going for at least 115 yards. But
Wow.
even with this historic game from Brady, the Eagles still came out on top by a final score of 41-33.
Because of
Despite
Nick
his
Foles.
season ending on a sour note, this was an incredible year for Brady, where he threw for 4,577 yards, 32 touchdowns, and
It's
only
crazy.
8
Brady could have had more rings than he has now, bro. I think he's been in 10 Super Bowls or so. Like, he could have had way more rings, because he lost 2 of them to Eli and then one to Nick Foles.
receptions, leading the league in passing
Bro
yards.
could have
and
definitely
passing
been like a
attempts
10-time Super Bowl champ by
581.
now.
This earned himself a spot in the Pro Bowl, on the All-Pro First Team, and he also took home the MVP award. In the 2019 season,
Jared
Jared
Goofball.
Goff was the only quarterback to have a 500-plus yard game, and
The
he
Goff
did so
ball.
against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on September 29th. This was a very talented Bucs defense that featured a linebacker duo of Shaquille Barrett and Levante David, along with a
Both of them were in their
defensive tackle
primes.
pairing of Vita Vea and Ndamukong
Oh,
Suh.
the
Despite their
fucking
elite
crash
pass
out.
rush, Goff torched their secondary for 517 yards and 2 touchdowns on a crazy 68
Damn.
pass attempts. However, he was forced into also throwing 3 interceptions in the
Wow.
process. The receiving duo of
That's
Robert
tough.
Woods and Cooper Kupp were the main beneficiaries of Goff's elite showing that day, combining for 22 receptions, 285 yards, and and a touchdown. But Goff and the Rams ultimately fell in a 55-40 shootout. This is a game that could have made the difference between the Rams making and missing the playoffs that year, because despite having a 9-7 record, they still missed out in the playoffs. But Goff had a very good year, leading the league with 626 passing attempts while throwing for 4,638 yards, 22 touchdowns,
16
and
picks.
16 interceptions. Dak Prescott was one of the two quarterbacks to throw for over 500 yards in a game in the 2020 season, doing so against the Cleveland Browns on October 4th. This was a great game from Dak, where he threw for 502 yards, 4 touchdowns, and just 1 interception. This was a very impressive feat, especially against the Browns defense that featured arguably the best pass rusher in the game in Myles Garrett and a 3-time Pro Bowler in Denzel Ward. However, Dak exposed the lack of depth in Cleveland's secondary and leaned heavily on Amari Cooper, who pulled in 12 passes for 134 yards and a touchdown. Despite that elite day through the air, Prescott and the Cowboys still fell 49-38 in a shootout. He was on pace to have a great season, but just 1 week later, he suffered a debilitating compound fracture in his ankle that brought his year to an early end, just 5 weeks.
I remember seeing that shit live, man.
He maintained his average of 371.2 yards per game through the air. He could have cruised past Peyton Manning's record for most passing yards in a single season. On January 10th, 2021, Ben Roethlisberger had the fourth and final 500-yard passing game of his career, doing so at 38 years old. To make this feat even more impressive, Big Ben has had twice as many 500-yard games than any other player in NFL history. He achieved this feat for the final time against the Cleveland Browns in the wild card round. After the Steelers got off to a disastrous start,
was this Big Ben's last game?
At the end of the first
I think the next season was his final.
Everything that he could to claw them back into this matchup. He finished the game with 501 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions on 68 pass attempts. While this was far from an efficient performance from him, there are very few players in history that could put up numbers close to this at 38 years old. The duo of Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson combined for 24 catches, 274 yards, and a touchdown, while Chase Claypool also pulled in 2 touchdowns. However, with Pittsburgh only able to pick up 52 yards on the ground, there was only so much that Roethlisberger could do on his own, and the Steelers were defeated by a final score of 48-37. Despite his 2021 season ending on a playoff elimination, this was a solid year for Roethlisberger, throwing for 3,803 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Joe Burrow was the only quarterback to throw for 500 yards
not this, bro. I'm having PTSD. I'm finna get traumatized from this shit. What the hell? Oh my gosh, no, please do not show this.
He is also the most recent quarterback to achieve this feat, despite 2.5 full seasons passing since his game against the Baltimore Ravens on December 26, 2021. Burrow took full advantage of the Ravens' injury-ridden roster and finished the contest.
but guess what? He can't do that shit no more because we're healthy now. When we're healthy, we run this fucking division. Okay? As long as Lamar is healthy, we win the division. Okay? Joe Burrow's not doing this shit again. Especially against the secondary we have this year. That shit is not fucking happening. You sit his pretty boy ass down somewhere. Looking like Eminem and Cody Rhodes had a baby, nigga.
0 interceptions. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase both went crazy in this game, combining for 19 catches, 319 yards, and 2 touchdowns, with T. Higgins accounting for nearly 200 yards and 2 touchdowns just on his own. With this nearly flawless performance from Burrow, there was almost no way that the Bengals could have lost this game. They came out with a dominant 41-21 win. It was extremely impressive seeing Burrow playing at this level just 1 year removed from a horrendous injury the year prior, where he tore his ACL, MCL, PCL, and meniscus, putting an end to his rookie season. On the back of this amazing game against the Ravens, he finished that season with 4,611 yards, 30 34 touchdowns and 14 interceptions while leading the league with a completion percentage of 70.4%. This earned himself the Comeback Player of the Year award. Not only was Burrow establishing himself as one of the best young talents at the quarterback position in the 2021 season, but he also led the Bengals to a Super Bowl appearance where they suffered a tight 3-point loss to the Los Angeles Rams, 23-20. It's hard to believe that Burrow is the last quarterback on this list to go for 500 yards in a game, but I want to know who you guys got next to reach this milestone. My personal pick,
CJ Stroud,
on a limb here and say CJ Stroud. I think he's going to be next. I think he's going to be number 20 on this list of players in the 2000s. But like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section.
Should that be my pick too? Shit, fuck it. CJ Stroud, you know what I'm saying? Shit, week 1. I could see him throwing for over 500 with this new offense that he's got. But hey, bro, I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on post notifications, get notified whenever I drop another banger video. We're on the road to 500 subs. Let me get it for more banger NFL reactions like this. Without further ado, I'm out. Gang.